Yes. Today topic is what is a conceptual framework? Yes. According to some other person's sayings, we can identify what mean by the conceptual framework. Conceptual framework is a structure which the researcher believes could best explain the natural progression of the phenomenon to be studied. Then that is a framework. That is the that explain the natural progression of phenomenon to be studied. So in the qualitative research in our subject area, we can see what is the process of that phenomenon. Then we can make a framework or sketch about the ideas in our considering subject area or region. In the second point, it offers a logical structure of content concepts that help provide a picture or visual display of how ideas in a study relates to one another. Then that create a logical structure. That is structure not uh, just a structure, it's a logical structure. Then that contain the concepts and that we can use some pictures or visual display to show how the ideas will relate to others. It assists the researcher to specify and define the concepts within the problem of the study. So researcher can manage his idea, how he find solutions for the research questions. So it's a then that conceptual framework simplify the idea inside of the research and what are the theoretical background, what are the methodologies we are going to use, what are the variables, and finally where we are focusing. Then the conceptual framework will brief our phenomenon and the way of doing that research. Yes, it represents an integrated way to looking at a problem under study. So it is an integrated way to look about the research problem. It is seen as an outline of courses of action or preferred approach to a thought to be carried out in a research study. Then it is an outline. We can consider it as an outline of action, preferred approaches, and thoughts to the research. According to someone else, that conceptual frameworks can be graphical or in a narrative form, showing a key variable or constructs to be studied and the presumed relationship between them. So what is the other thing? We can make some narratives. We can make some graphical picture and the narratives and key variables. Well, we can see what is the relationship direction among the variable to construct this study. The other importance of conceptual framework is, now we identify what mean by conceptual framework. Then with these 6 scenes, what you can feel, it is an outline, it has some narratives, and it may be a graphical thing, and it is showing the relationship between variables or constructs, and there may be a philosophical development inside of that, and most probably we are in the qualitative part, so we can use some theory, so we can see where the theory is affecting to our study. Likewise, we can make a picture about what we are going to do. Still, I did not show you a conceptual framework, but later in the lecture, you can see a image of conceptual framework. Okay, now we are going to identify what are the importance of conceptual framework in research. It aids the researcher to identify and construct his or her worldview and approach to the topic of study. So when you do a literature survey, you can increase your knowledge. Then by using that understanding, finally, you can create your own view. So with a good theoretical background and good reference, and you can create your view into world view. So then you can create a structure from the world view to your research. So you can construct that uh, process, natural process, simply through a conceptual framework. It brings together related concepts to explain or predict a given event or given a detailed understanding of research problem and its assert solution. So we can, that brings two things. What are the things? The concepts to explain or predict, and get the, details about the research problem and the way of assess the solutions. So in one way we can explain the problem, in the other way we can ascertain the solutions. It accentuates the reasons why a research topic is worth studying. The assumption of a researcher, the scholar, he or she agrees with, disagrees with, and how she's conceptually background to approach. Then there may be some assumptions, not in quantitative research, in qualitative research also there are some assumptions. Then you can see whether we can agree with those or not. Then we can give a sound idea through our conceptual framework. So if I brief the slide again, what are the importance of conceptual framework? You can identify the world view. What is the view of that study area and the present research? And you can identify what is the research problem, what is the research gap, and what are the way of getting solutions. In the other point, we can identify what are the assumptions and the conceptually background of the research. Okay, now we identify what mean by the conceptual framework and what are the importance of conceptual framework. Now we are in the stage of the construction part of a conceptual framework. Let's see how to construct a conceptual framework. Mostly, diagrams are created to clearly define the construct or variables of the research topic, and their relationship are shown by the use of arrows. So we can use some arrows. We can use some arrows to construct this conceptual framework. So we should identify some variables and some relationship in between those two, and we should put some arrows to construct that relationship. Researchers are at liberty to adapt existing framework, but how to modify it to suit the nature of the context of their research as well as nature of their research question. Okay, even though there may be a theory and there may be a various past studies, but the present researcher also can add some new knowledge into there. Then that also can show through that conceptual framework. But the thing is, you should not make any disadvantage to the field by adding something. So that should be acceptable with the nature of the context. So the new adaptation should be a fair and general thing for the research area. So the research question also should be fair enough. Fisher added that a good conceptual framework must also be expressed in writing for it to be understood clearly. So then the conceptual framework must be so clear. Then it should be understandable. Then it will provide a good job. Yes. Now you know what I mean by the conceptual framework and what I mean by the theory. Theory is something about the past. Then what the conceptual framework? It's about the present study. Let's see what are the differences between theoretical framework and the conceptual framework. Theoretical framework is culled from an existing theory or theories in literature that has already been tested, and validated by others. It's validated by others and is considered as an acceptable theory in scholarly literature. So it is a somewhat already tested and validated by others point. But the conceptual framework is the researcher's understanding of how the research problem will be explored. The conceptual framework is read as a researcher's understanding, but the theoretical framework is based on validated by others' perspectives. Then the specific directions or research will have to take and the relationship between different variables in the study. So the conceptual framework is about the present situation, but there we can obtain some points, variables, and some concept or some knowledge from the previous thing, but that explain about the present situation. But in the theoretical framework, it is about something past. It has already tested and validated by others. But this one, it is the creation of an creation based on the understanding of the researcher. So that is the way of doing the present research.